Right, we're expecting to be joined by the governor of Ekiti State, Governor Kayode Fayemi, who is of course, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, to talk about these issues and others. I'm told we have the executive governor of Ekiti State now. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Governor. All right, let's talk about this recommendation coming from the Nigerian Governors Forum, of which you are head. You are recommending, of course, you're backing the regulation, and at the same time you're backing about 385 naira per litre for Nigerians to buy petrol at the pump. At the pump. Tell us why, and what considerations did you have to bear in mind with coming about this figure?
Thank you very much for having me on your program tonight. We have been at this for a while, and the National Economic Council put up a committee headed by my brother governor from Kaduna State, Governor Nasir El-Rufai. I am a member of that committee. Governor Baseki is a member. Governor Umahi is a member. Governor Badaru of Jigawa is a member. The GMD of NNPC, Central Bank, Ministry of Finance, they also are members of the committee. And we've carried out extensive research on this issue. The truth of the matter is, when oil price goes up in the world, in almost every single case, because this is market determined, pump price also goes up. And as of last year, we were informed that the price of PMS has been deregulated and there would no longer be subsidy. And in the 2021 budget, there's no provision for subsidy. As it stands, almost on average, every month, 120 billion naira is committed to payment for subsidy on PMS. Today, there was a meeting of the Federal Allocation Committee, and NNPC contributed 0 to the Federal Allocation accounts, meaning that the three segments of government, federal government, the state, and the local government, did not get a single penny from NNPC. And the excuse from NNPC simply that they had committed these funds to payment of subsidy. And in addition to that, we believe there's a lot of fraud that is happening on the matter of subsidy. Now we hear it's 93 million liters that Nigerians consume daily. The truth of the matter is that there's no sane person in this country who believes that Nigerians consume 93 million liters of petroleum every single day. For us, at the level of the Nigerian Government Forum, we don't even believe that Nigerians consume 40 million liters, not to talk of 93 million liters. So someone has to account for what's happening to that 53 million that the consumption has been padded with. From our own investigation, we see that a lot of it goes out of the country to the neighboring countries, illegally, of course. And there are also players in the industry who manipulate the figures to the detriment of ordinary Nigerians. So why are we living a lie? That is really the issue for us. Kerosene has been deregulated. Diesel has been deregulated. These are petroleum products that ordinary Nigerians mostly use. The general reason for reluctance to remove subsidy is that ordinary Nigerians are going to be the ones at the receiving end, which is partly true. There's no question that there is always going to be a deleterious impact from increasing petroleum price at the pump, because Public transportation is likely to go up. Inflation would follow. Even food prices, almost everything would have a knock-on effect from the increase in price. But what is also clear from our calculation of what is being taken out and what the manipulation that it suffers from it, is clearly that there is nowhere in our neighboring countries that the price of petroleum at the pump is lower than 400 naira equivalent. Nowhere. Whether you're talking of Niger, or you're talking of Cameroon, or you're talking of even Ghana, and in many of these countries, it is the Nigerian petroleum that they depend on. Now, there's nothing wrong in Nigeria being our brother's keeper. We've always offered concessionary oil in the past. If that is what we're doing, let's be clear, and let's do it officially, so that whatever we're giving to the neighboring countries directly, not via illegal criminal enterprise. That's the position that we hold at the level of the Governors Forum. We also believe that what will be generated, we spend over 1 trillion naira. If you calculate 120 billion every month, that should ordinarily go into the Federation account, going on supporting subsidy every month. That's over 1 trillion. We're just burning money, and it's time to stop living the lie. Yes, there is every reason for Nigerians to say, what are you going to do with the money if it doesn't go on subsidy? After all, we're benefiting from it because God put oil in our country. There is no country where you have oil where there is no reason for them to also price it at market-driven level. We must have our own local refinery. Everybody is supportive of that. But what we have witnessed in the last decade or two is that our refineries have not produced the products that would satisfy the local industry. But the way to focus on that is not to keep arguing for subsidy. It is to ensure that whatever we derive from market-determined pump price, which will still be lower in Nigeria, okay, even at the level that we're asking it to be, than to keep arguing for subsidized. And at the end of the day, it's not really subsidized. There is a knock-on effect in other areas.
All right, Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, you said so much about why that recommendation, is being accepted. That means Nigerians must look forward to at least a minimum cost of 385 naira per the pump price of petrol. But in your submissions, you indicted in no little way the managers of Nigeria's petroleum resources. The NNPC would know is at the apex, or the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and you have Mr. President as the Minister of Petroleum Resources in the last 6 years. Where has the NGF pinpointed these criminal activities that has made the importation of petrol so lucrative to the extent of paying over 1 trillion naira per annum?
Well, the over 1 trillion naira per annum is on subsidy. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing that is in principle wrong with bringing in refined products. But our preference would be for the products to be locally refined. And when you say that I am indicting the managers of our petroleum resources, they have actually indicted themselves. The GMD of NNPC has consistently come out to say that they themselves do not believe that Nigerians consume 93 million liters, that there must be something happening which is either getting this out of Nigeria illegally or fiddling with the figures somehow. I think there's that recognition in the industry and in the political circle. So there's no point pretending about that. But the way to deal with that, yes, you can argue Let's tighten our borders. Let's fix our immigration. Let's deal with our security arrangements. We all know that we have porous borders. And pending the time that we can address the porosity of our borders, there are alternatives. And we feel that if it is market-driven, then the actual consumption would emerge rather from this than this pretension that we're dealing with, which claims that we're consuming 93 million liters of petroleum every day, which we're not. So that's our view, but we also feel strongly as governors who are elected to focus on the welfare and security of our people, that whatever is made out of that, a significant portion of it can also be dedicated to the weak and the vulnerable in our society. One of the recommendations you had from our meeting yesterday was that we should have commercial buses put on the street to assist public transportation. We have also argued for conversion from petroleum to gas in the operation of public transport vehicles. Those are some of the suggestions, but we also feel that there should be conditional cash transfer from this money to the most vulnerable segment of the population who are likely to be most affected. Not the middle class, who clearly have 4 or 5 cars in their various homes, or even governors who run 20, 30 cars in their convoy. Everybody should cut their coat according to the resources available to the country.
Make that point, Mr. Governor. Now, you are insisting on deregulation. Why at the same time are you talking about price fixing? It seems to be contradictory in terms. And I'd also like you to address that question that my colleague asked you earlier about who really should take responsibility at the end of the day. You talk about fraud within the petroleum sector. You have the president has been the Minister of Petroleum for the past 6 years. Shouldn't he take some responsibility?
The president does not run the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. One of the reasons why the president has put forward a petroleum industry bill to the National Assembly is that this organization, this behemoth known as NNPC, can be more professionally run in a private sector driven arrangement. It's a public sector vehicle, and most oil corporations in the world are going in the direction of private sector driven initiative. Even Aramco has just sold 1% of its ownership structure. It's still going to sell more. It's planning to sell up to 5%. That's in Saudi Arabia, that has abundance of oil and has resources more than Nigeria. So we're not arguing for price fixing. As a matter of fact, we're arguing for market determined pricing. However, we know that if we are to go for the maximum market determined pricing, it's going to have a very, very unhealthy impact on the ordinary people. But we also cannot keep it at 162 naira per liter, because the landing cost itself into Nigeria, if you check the cost with PPPRA, is far more than 162 naira per liter. Who does that kind of business? I mean, you cannot bring a product in at 162 and then sell it for less than that. Or you cannot bring a product in at 190 or 200 naira and yet to sell it for 162 naira. I know that there is a huge deficit of trust between those of us in public sector and those who are the recipients of our policies. But the way to deal with that is not to continue to live a lie. It is to confront the issues and hold us more accountable, and those responsible for this when we achieve a level of deregulation in the industry. It is the way to go. Otherwise, the sector is going to crash.
All right, Your Excellency, would be back with you in a moment, just taking a news story from your governor colleague in Ondo State, where the governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, says the decision of the southern governors to enforce the ban on open grazing is irreversible. Governor Kayode in a statement says the governors will enforce the ban with vigor. The governor's statement is in reaction to the criticism of the open grazing ban by Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. He says the southern governors are ready to defend the legality of their decision in court. According to him, the defense of open grazing by the Attorney General is wicked and arrogant.
All right. So, Mr. Governor, how would you react to the comments coming from the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, saying that your decision, that the decision of the southern governors to ban open grazing, is totally against the spirit and the letter of the Nigerian Constitution? Says the Constitution guarantees free movement of Nigerians everywhere, and as a matter of fact, he went ahead to compare it with spare parts dealers, that if northern governors took the decision to do the same, what would that amount to? How would you react to his comments?
Well, frankly, there's nothing for me to react to. The spokesperson of the Southern Governors Forum has reacted, and I think it's appropriate to take his reaction as the reaction of the body that he represents. You have invited me here to speak to you about the Nigerian Governors Forum position, and I have the authority to do that. I don't have the authority to speak for the Southern Governors Forum. Governor Kayode does. However, I could at least tell you that more than 2 months ago, the Nigerian Governors Forum has taken a decision on banning open grazing as well. However, that decision was balanced with an arrangement encouraging the federal authority to support alternative modern livestock management systems, including the one that has been approved at the National Economic Council, that is the National Livestock Transformation Program. So for me, this is a storm in a teacup. It's a distraction. I think what we want to focus on is safety and security and protecting the livelihoods of ordinary Nigerians. Anything that we can do to support those herders who need to be protected themselves, so that we can protect the larger interest of ordinary Nigerians, we should do. And in our view, in the Nigerian Governors Forum, we feel we should support those involved in livestock business, just as we support those involved in rice production or in cassava production with anchor borrowers funding support. So that's the way we see it. It's not an either or. What we're about, what we ought to all be about, is safety and security of Nigerians, not this point scoring and blame games, which really would not address the fundamental challenge of safety and security that Nigerians have.
Excellency, just before we go on break in 2 minutes, I want you again to look at the corpus of insecurity that pervades the entire country and the regionalization of security outfits like the Amotekun in the southwest. Only recently, Ebube Agu was launched in the southeast and other regions about. How, has your forum been able to aggregate and really feel the pulse of the people when it comes to the issue of banditry, kidnapping, that envelopes the whole country?
Well, the Nigerian Governors Forum is a forum of all the 36 governors. We get feedback from the Northeast, from the Northwest, from the North Central, Southeast, all of the 6 zones. We have governors from all the zones, and they ventilate the issues when they come to meetings. They also speak to me directly about the challenges that they have. I'm sure you've seen me visit Katsina in the wake of Kankara. You've seen me in Zamfara in the wake of Jangebe. You've seen me in Maiduguri. You've seen me in Oyo and Ondo. So for us at the level of the Nigerian Governors Forum, this is an issue that is on the front burner. It's an issue that we are constantly engaging with the security chiefs, with Mr. President, with other critical stakeholders. And how a particular state decides to address an issue that is peculiar to it in the state is something for the governor who is elected to do that. So I don't think we should begrudge them as long as they do that within the ambits of the law and the constitutional provision of Nigeria. Many of these
Mr.
vehicles that you've
Kayode
spoken
Fayemi,
about.
Chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum. We'll take a short break on Newsnight. When we return, of course, we'll try to find out what exactly the governor in his capacity can do to improve security in his state and, of course, other parts of the country. Do stay with us.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Newsnight Nigeria, coming to you from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Christian Ogodo.
And I am Ngozi Lebu. Our guest is the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi. He's also the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. Thank you so much for staying with us. Still talking about security, and you did say that Amotekun and all the other regional security bodies really have the go ahead to do what they can. Of course, they have to do it within the ambits of the law. But I want to ask, in terms of the ban on open grazing, Mr. Akeredolu says that it will be pursued vigorously. Exactly how will state governors, including yourself, enforce this ban on open grazing?
Well, don't forget that Ekiti State actually has an open grazing, an anti-open grazing law before I became governor in 2018. Governor Fayose had put up a law before I came in, and we've been engaging with both our herders and farmers. They have a joint committee that looks into this, and we regularly discuss these issues and resolve problems where they exist. Where this problem has become more complicated is not in the relationship between farmers and herders, who have had a long-standing relationship in many communities across Nigeria. It is this violent streak that has been introduced by bandits that are not really herders, who are impersonating herders and then using the association that they have in those communities to create murder and mayhem. And for me, it's those criminals that we need to isolate. But one of the challenges with that is that they mix up easily with those who are in their legitimate trade in many of the states. And there has to be a way to manage this relationship so that it does not undermine what is happening to those who are in the legitimate industry, but criminalizes and interdict those who are out to murder, kill, kidnap, and create chaos across the country. And that really is the issue. It is about criminals. It's not about herders. But where herders mix up with criminals, there has to be a way to separate them. And this position taken by the Nigerian Governors Forum, by the Northern Governors Forum, and now by the Southern Governors Forum is really to help separate the wheat from the chaff, until such a time that we are able to put in place ranches, grazing facilities for those who are in legitimate livestock management business. And there's no question that there are people who are in that legitimate business, and they ought to be supported, they ought to be recognized, and they ought to be managed as part of the process of security and safety. However, we must go after those criminals. We cannot be apologetic about them. We must make sure we take them out of society and deal with them, again, within the ambits of the law, but in a very decisive manner that they don't destroy the business of those who are legitimate.
Very well said, Mr. Governor. But let me take you back again to the decision of the Governors Forum, to the recommendations of your committee on the deregulation and the fixing of the pump price for petrol. Did your forum consider the socio-economic snowball or ripple effect on the people, even the state finances, where your IGR is very low? I think only about 3 or 4 states in the country contribute over 60% of the IGR. Fortunate, we just lost, contact with Kayode Fayemi, the chairman of Nigeria's Governors Forum.
Yes.
Okay, our engineers are working on it.
Yes, and you make a very important point there, and it does raise the question as to the viability of the states, including, of course, Ekiti State, of which Kayode Fayemi is governor there. A lot of people have been saying the states are just not, it's either they're not viable or the governors themselves are not creative enough in a way that they can look for other sources.
All right, because we have Mr. Governor back, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. Just before that little H, Mr. Governor, I was asking if the forum considered in its totality the snowball effect of the socio-political conflagrations that could develop from this new pump price that is being recommended. This is in consideration of the poor financial positions of the states, the zero FAC allocation in May and June. How are the governors, the states, going to manage these? Is it through the usual palliatives of some luxury buses, for transportation, and in 2 years they are broken down and, not seen again?
Well, I already spoke about this. First of all, these recommendations are not decisions yet. It is the National Economic Council that will take that decision and then, of course, recommend it to Mr. President for its approval. At this moment, this was not even discussed at the National Economic Council today. The report was discussed at our meeting yesterday, and it wasn't tabled because there was no time to table it at the National Economic Council today. I'm sure it will come up in the not too distant future. But the important point to make is that we're going to be looking at a whole range of options. Our business is to ensure that there is peace and security. The welfare of our people contributes to peace and security, which for us is human security. And if we're not able to meet our obligations to the people, either via those who are salary earners or even the market traders, then we would be failing in our duty as governors in those states. So we're looking at a whole range of options. We're looking at improving on our IGR. We're looking at cutting costs where these costs that do not really make sense, and I'm talking of governance costs now. We're also looking at ensuring that we restructure the budgets of our states in order to accommodate the challenges of the moment. NNPC has informed us what they're able to do or not able to do in the next 3 months, and clearly we've seen the result of that at FAC today with the zero contribution that NNPC made to FAC. So we must look for creative ways, and states are looking at those ways. In my own state, I've had cause to call a state of the state stakeholder forum. I've had cause to engage the labor leaders in the state. Other states are also conducting the same across the board. So we would have to deal with this challenge, but we must also know that tough times don't last. Only tough people do. If we refuse to take this decision now, we will not have a choice than to take it in future. We can't keep postponing the evil day. We have to confront our realities.
Your Excellency, put copiously, the state governors are thinking of downsizing, right-sizing, reducing the workers' strength. One of the several options you mentioned.
Let me ask also, would it be fair to say that the states are not viable economically? And you talk about options. Exactly what are they in specifics?
Well, frankly, there is no state that is not viable, Ngozi. We obviously have to deal with challenges from time to time. We have to be more innovative with our finances. We have to, as I said, reduce costs and increase productivity at the state level, as we have to do at the federal level. The challenge that we almost confront is that Nigeria is not a rich country. We need to get away from this notion that our country has limitless resources because we're oil producing. In another decade or two, oil would probably become a wasting asset. Fossil fuel is going out of fashion, and climate change requires us to look at things differently. Thankfully, the federal government and many states are looking at renewable energy as obviously an alternative to focus on. But as for states, many states are looking at alternatives. You probably saw what we did in Ekiti 2 days ago with our rice pyramid project. We're looking at ensuring that an agrarian state like ours needs to focus more on putting its people back to farm, but not hoe and cutlass farm. A much more productive commercial agribusiness that a lot of our young people can get into. We're also looking more in the direction of our knowledge economy. We're known to be the intellectual capital of this country. How are we turning that to wealth beyond just earning degrees? And that's what's responsible for our smart city project. My other colleagues are doing similar things. Kaduna, that you've just mentioned, Kaduna has become an infrastructure center in the country. And Governor Nasir El-Rufai has focused on industrialization, is focused on healthcare, is focused on many things. States are doing whatever they can to make a difference. But we need to address the structure of the Nigerian economy so that this rent-seeking system goes away and our dependency on oil also fizzles out, so that our economy can become more regenerative and more creative. That is the solution. And we can't keep pretending that we can continue to run an economy that is not productive, purely consumptive, and based on imported products.
Very quickly and lastly, how have the governors resolved to meet the judiciary workers' strike, the first line charges to the judiciary and to the legislature?
Again, that's another storm in the teacup. Governors have never been opposed to legislative and judicial autonomy. We have always been supportive. Some of our states have even gone ahead to implement this before this hullabaloo around JUSUN strike and parliamentary workers' strike. The issue has been around the modality of ensuring that this happens. And a meddlesome interloper in that has been the implementation committee, which has created a problem between governors and these other arms of government. But in principle, the matter has been resolved and the final product has been conveyed to the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, who has been the mediator in this matter. And I believe our workers should go back to work. You have many cases that are pending, and you have many people that are in detention unjustifiably.
All right. Of course, you've asked that the Malami-led Presidential Implementation Committee should be dissolved. Mr. Governor, Kayode Fayemi, thank you so much for joining us. The Governor of Ekiti State and Chairman NGF.